In this video, we're going to take a look at the dismantling and modifications I'm going to make to my 2020 Player Strat that I bought. I bought this used off of Reverb, and I had very good luck with my Buttercream Strat, and I had very good luck with the Player Series Telecaster, but this one, the body and everything was sound, but like I mentioned in the first video, the frets were a mess. The fret ends were like razor blade sharp, I mean, to the point where it was uncomfortable to play. So there's going to be a lot of attention there, but I'm going to start with dismantling the guitar, to popping the neck, taking the tuners off. I want to put black hardware on this, so I'm swapping everything out for black hardware. So I got black Fender locking tuners that are going to go in. You know, for a Fender guitar, you know, the Fender tuners are just the obvious choice. You pay a little bit more than you do for, like I said, a hip shots. If you look around and you're patient, though, you can get them fairly comparable. I think I got these tuners for like, it was like right around $70. But I mean, they drop right in and you don't have to worry about drilling. The big thing, like I said, the fret ends were a mess. I recently purchased a StewMac fret end file, so this thing, I got to pop the cherry on it, and it got quite the workout for this, because it wasn't like one or two frets here and there. It was basically every fret needed this done, so it was in rough shape. So now we're going to go through, check the level. They were pretty good. There was only like 6 or 7. I probably should have leveled them all and recrowned all of them, but I don't have any radius blocks, and I kind of want to hold off on doing that until I get radius blocks. So this is good enough until I get a set of those, and then if I have to do this again when I restring it or whatever, then so be it. But you know, go through, polish the ones that I recrowned and leveled. Now we're going to remove the claw, because I'm putting active pickups in. I don't need the ground wire. I already removed the bridge, so by taking the claw out, that just saves me from having to solder a ground on the guitar that I plan on using a lot of this hardware and the electronics for. None of this stuff's going to go to waste. It's all going to another project after this. But get the pick guard off and get all this stuff out of there and go from there. I wanted to do black on black on black, so all this stuff has to go. Plus, you know, humbuckers. I'm going with an EMG 60 and 81 set, you know, the kind of typical metal EMG set. I like how they sound, you know. I mean, people, how come you don't try Fishman's? Because I like how the EMGs sound. Solder the grounds, or get the grounds off, the body ground and the ground to the bridge. But, you know, like most manufactured guitars that aren't hand-built, the solder was quite thick, and I just didn't have the patience, so I snipped the ground wires and the wires to the output jack, and I'll just resolder them later. It's no big deal. Now, I thought I previously removed the claw. I guess I didn't. This is the actual removal of the claw. I must have just been backing it out to get the tension off the springs so they were easier to pull. I went with a Kluson bridge because Fender doesn't have any bridges that are black that you can buy, and I couldn't find any 2-point tremolo bridges that were black, so I got a Kluson K2. Oh, I always fuck up the letters. K2 PTB. Yeah, that's it. And it's, I mean, it's pound for pound, it's just as good as the bridge that came in. Actually, it's better because the block is steel instead of whatever the Fender block is, so it's got a little bit more heft to it. But I'm going to deck the trem anyways. The springs seem a little lighter. I'm going to install all 5 strings. I'm going to install all 5 springs and then deck the trem. Usually when I put EMGs in a Strat, with the exception of the Roadhouse Deluxe that I built, I put the battery in the compartment with the trem springs, but normally I only use 3 springs. But this time I was thinking about just putting it under the pick guard, so I put all 5 springs in, and let it go. I might change my mind later and end up soldering some wire onto the battery thing, or maybe I'll even get frisky and route in a box or a space for a battery box. I'm not 100% sure yet. I really don't want to take more wood out of the guitar, so I might just do the old battery in the back of the guitar trick with the trem springs. It's worked pretty good, but we'll see. The pickguard and the bulk of the electronics for the EMGs came out of a Squier standard Strat that I had that it's not in the best of shape right now. I don't know what, it was older. It was a 2001 that I bought used, and the body cracked where the bushings are for the 2-point tremolo system in it. So while I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with it, figured might as well use the guts. That had a EMG retroactive 77 set in it. Those I put into a different guitar, but I kept the switch and everything since it was all wired up. Usually that's not a bad idea to go with the EMG 3-way selector switch on these Strats to kind of save some room underneath the pickguard, because then you don't need the bus block. But I already had the switch wired up, and the EMG switch is like, I don't know, it's like $30 or something. It's not super expensive, but it's like, you try to save money where you can. So since I already had this, it kind of seemed like, why buy the switch? But I might, that's not to rule out that I won't possibly get the switch later and then get rid of the bus block. I'm not 100% sure. So that's where all the electronics, for the most part, came from. It was just easier. Like I said, instead of spending the money to buy the stuff, I already had it and wasn't being used. So now we're getting to the output jack boat. Thing with EMGs and Strats, sometimes the output jack doesn't fit through the hole in the boat. So I have a little deburring tool, just kind of go around the hole, and it opens it up enough eventually that you can get the jack through, and it keeps it relatively neat without having to drill or anything like that. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of shaving off a little bit of material, and then once I get a good fit, we'll move on from that. So it's hit and miss. The Roadhouse Deluxe, I didn't have to do that because those have a stereo output jack, but sometimes it's just something you got to do. But the other problem is I don't know where I got this boat from, but it does not fit. I thought I could just get away with maybe filing a little bit of material away from the bottom of the routing and the body, but turned out it was a little too wide also. So I fiddled with it for a little bit, and then I just said to hell with it, and I ordered one from Vintage Forge on Amazon, and that one dropped right in perfectly. And I didn't have to mess with the deburring tool in the hole to get the jack to fit in there either, so win-win. And it wasn't badly priced. It was like, I think it was like $12, and it was, I mean, it's nice quality, but it's not the same exact shade of black as the bridge. But if I took the time to just sit there with a microfiber cloth and give it a good polish, it'd match. It's more of a dull black than a glossy black, so whatever. It's black. That's all that really mattered here. So we're pretty much. The other mistake I make is I don't always double check the size of the pickup routings on pickguards, and I've had to do this on more than one occasion. Get the handy dandy deburring tool out again and open up the pickup cavity for a covered humbucker. The EMGs, they were just a little too big because I went with the old classic black plastic covered ones, just to kind of help with the aesthetic, instead of going with like the chrome or the black chrome or the brushed black chrome, the metalworks. I just kind of wanted that, I don't know, kind of an old school look, I guess you could say, for this. Then the black knobs and the black switch tip. Now the thing with Strats is sometimes the routing for the output, you can use the quick connects in the EMG set just fine. You kind of got to finagle the output a little bit so everything goes in the way it should and your bolt holes line, or your screw holes line up. But on this one, it was giving me some trouble. And some of the strats that I've done, I've been able to just, like I said, use the quick connects. Some of them I've just ended up soldering wires to the output jack, and then I solder them to the EMG wires. The upside is it gives you a little bit more room to work with, because the EMG wires are a tad short. And then, I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks if you ever decide to rip them out, then you got to unsolder the wires. But, you know, it's one of those things. I don't plan on getting rid of this guitar, and it's for me, so it doesn't bother me. Now, here I have some issues with getting everything under the hood. For some reason, this one wanted to fuck with me. The screws that I had for the pickups were a little long, and the body doesn't have the side routes near the pickup routes for the to accommodate longer screws. So because I'm impatient, like I said, this is my guitar, I just snipped the bottom of the screw off, and eventually I managed to finagle everything under there. Obviously, if I was doing this for a friend or like a customer or something, I would have just ordered the proper screws. But like I said, you know, for me, there's certain liberties I'll take for my own personal guitars just to get to the end. By this point, I think this is 3 days of working on this thing. Granted, the bulk of it was on the frets, but you know, I tend to get impatient. I like new things, so I wanted to get to the point where I could at least play it a little bit. So we're gonna wrap this up here. This is a good stopping point. We're gonna wrap this up here, and then in the next video I'll discuss the modifications, and I'll show you why I chose what I chose, and I'll show you the finished guitar, and we'll see what it sounds like. Little side note before I go, just because there's always like some kind of weird thing that happens when I'm doing this stuff, I got like 4 of the screws into the pickguard before I realized they were different colors. Apparently my bag of black screws had black screws and black chrome, or like a smoked chrome. I didn't have enough of the pure black ones, so I ended up going with the smoked chrome ones just to kind of break up the color scheme but still keep it dark. Now the video's over for real.